And we look at multiple factors. It's not just UPI is just one of the factors. But on the other part of your question on MFIs, I would request Deputy Governor Swaminathan to reply to that question.
Yeah, these are some of the segments in which, as we spoke last during the course of MPC as well, there are certain segments we saw increased slippages in the Q2 numbers that were emerging. And as we mentioned earlier, it was not very surprising to us because these were the segments which saw an outlier growth a year before, and we had taken some proactive measures on that. And we had also, if you recall, in the August monetary policy statement, Governor has said that in these segments where enhanced slippage is being witnessed, A, we have requested the banks and NBFC to strengthen their underwriting standards, and B, to step up on their collection efforts to ensure that the stress does not translate into NPAs. So on the same theme, we continue to engage with the entities wherever we see any outlier behavior. At the system level, it is still not a big concern. About 20-30 bips uptick in stress is something which we are confident that the entities will be able to handle. And in certain entities where these particular numbers are a little outlier, we deal with them on a bilateral basis, examining as to the steps that they are taking up to ensure that the stress is not widespread. And the third, of course, through the SRO, there are enough levers that are available to us to ensure that the self-regulatory organization in this particular space, in the MFI space, are taking adequate steps to sensitize their members to adhere to the prudential guidelines of Reserve Bank and ensure that the household income assessment and the repayment obligation towards the net monthly income, etc., are strictly adhered to. And as Governor said earlier, to avoid the push effect, just respond to the demand rather than give loans to achieve someone's target. So I think these are 3-4 key messages that we have managed to deliver in the last 2-3 months. I think that should be good enough to ensure that the balance is restored in this particular segment.
Yeah, please.
On the UPI numbers, I think we shouldn't read too much. There was an oversized increase last month because of the way the festivals fell this year. So that got corrected for this month. So I expect that the trend will continue going forward.
Thank you, sirs. Next, I'll request Mr. Laltendu Mishra from the Hindu.
Good afternoon, Governor. US President-elect Donald Trump has reportedly threatened to have tariff barriers on BRIC nations like India. Will it impact on exports or is it a matter of concern? Thank you.
No, it is. We have to, first thing is, let's not prematurely, let the policy come. And so far as the BRICS, you are referring to the BRICS countries in the context of the BRICS currency and all that. You see, sorry? Yeah. So, now the BRICS currency was an idea which was raised by one of the members of the BRICS countries, and it was discussed. No decision has been taken in the matter. The geographical spread of the countries also is a factor which has to be kept in mind. Unlike the Eurozone, which has a single currency, then they have geographical contiguity. BRICS countries are spread all over. That also has to be kept in mind. And with regard to the dollar, de-dollarization, etc., there is absolutely, so far as India is concerned, there is no step which we have taken which specifically wants to de-dollarize. All that we have done is that we have permitted opening of Vostro accounts, and we have entered into agreement with a couple of two countries by now to do local currency denominated trade. That is basically to de-risk our Indian trade. Dependence on one currency can be problematic at times because of appreciation or depreciation. So as a part of de-risking our trade, that is a step which has been taken. Nothing, de-dollarization is not our, certainly not our objective. It's not on the table at all. I think it's more of a more of a narrative which is being said in some sections of the media. Our effort is basically to de-risk our trade. Nobody is talking about or thinking about de-dollarization.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Ms. Sangeeta Mehta from the Economic Times.
Thank you, sir. Sir, could you share your thinking behind the introduction of SORR that you have spoken in the policy? And sir, could you give some idea on the timelines for the draft guidelines, because almost 4 of them are already being talked about, the project finance, LCR and ECL, climate finance. Could you give some idea when they would be?
Okay. SORR, I think you can answer.
So as of now, we have 2 benchmarks which are set out by the FBI. One is the MIBOR, which concerns uncollateralized transactions, and we have the MROR, which is based on the market repo. But the TREPS, which is 60% of the market, is not in that index. So this index that we will have now will capture all secure transactions. That's the limit.
And on the other part, I would request DG Rajeshwar Rao to give the reply.
Guidelines are fairly major game changers as far as the banking system is concerned. So we have got significant feedback on all these guidelines. Those need to be carefully evaluated, close to finalizing some of the approaches. I will not give a definite timeline. We will do it as fast as possible.
We have followed a very consultative approach. These are all, they will bring about significant changes in the banking system. So we are, proceeding on it. These measures are necessary, but we have to proceed in a very careful and calibrated manner, in consultation and taking into account, not in consultation, but taking into account the suggestions and other issues, which have been raised by the banks and several other stakeholders. So we want to move very carefully, very cautiously, so that when implemented, the implementation is as non-disruptive as possible.
Thank you, sirs. Sir, with your permission, 2 more questions. Yeah. So I'll request Mr. Ben Jose from New Indian Express.
Hi, sir. Hope to see you announcing the next policy, sir. And congratulations for the 6 years of tenure. And Patra sir, we will miss you at the next policy. My question is what Laltendu asked about. It's for the building on that. The rupee has been under pressure, and if the Trump tariff war happens, say 10% on Indian exports, and what could be the impact on the rupee going for if the tariff war happens?
I'll take that question.
The tariff, hypothetically, if it happens, will not be an isolated event. There will be other events around it. Like, for instance, they say that perhaps China may react by devaluing currency, or there might be retaliatory tariffs. So at this point, it is very difficult to say what will be a unilateral move and a unilateral effect. Let us wait for the general equilibrium effects.
Thank you, sir. And lastly, I'll request Mr. Siddharth Upasni.
Thank you, sir. Afternoon, Governor. A couple of months ago, there was a paper co-authored by you, Dr. Patra, saying that the rate hikes since May 2022 have had negatively contributed to growth by around 160 basis points. So has too much growth been sacrificed to reduce inflation? And are those rate hikes and the retention of the repo rate at 6.5%, is it expected to continue impacting growth going forward? And second, on FCNRB, is the FCNRB limit increased to reduce the pressure on RBI's forex interventions, because the monetary policy and forex management policy has been at sort of odds. The interventions have drained out a lot of rupee liquidity. So is that also been a consideration? Thank you.
I think since the paper was authored by Dr. Michael Patra, he should. I think he can reply.
So I'm happy that you've read the paper, but I do hope you've read it carefully. What it says is that the cumulative rate increase of 250 basis points reduced inflation through aggregate demand by 160 basis points. But inflation fell from 7.8% in April to 3.8% recently in August. So of the 320 basis points, only 160 is due to monetary policy. Okay. Now, in the same paper, you will see that there are charts which show the impact of an interest rate change on output and inflation. The impact on output starts after the rate increase and reaches its peak in the third quarter after the rate increase. It plateaus in the fourth quarter. and after that it fades away. So if you take the cycle of rate hikes, the cumulative peak was in July-September 2022 in terms of quarters. So take 4 quarters from there for the effect on output. July-September 2023. So after that, output starts to rise back. The effect on inflation lingers for 10 quarters. So by now, output has started to go back and it has actually crossed what we call its potential level. So to ascribe the growth slowdown of the second quarter to that is, I think, stretching the case too far.
Sir, one last question. So, Ms. Gopika, you would like to ask, right? Yeah, you can please speak in the mic.
Yeah, I mean, just adding to his question, is that a concern? I mean, was that a consideration, the forex reserves, given that we had seen, the kind of outflows last 2 months, and more is expected. The market is expecting a similar quantum of outflows the next few months. What is the consideration? Is that a consideration behind to sort of protect the currency? And my second question, sir, on usurious rates, RBI has raised a lot of concerns around usurious rates. Now, the Reserve Bank has followed a principle-based regulation and has removed any sort of caps on interest rate lending rates. But given the kind of concerns that are rising in the industry, MFIs, unsecured loans, is there a need to define a boundary or a threshold in terms of lending rates?
You take that thing, or you will take usurious, you will take. But before that is FCNRB, let me say, first thing I want to say that our forex reserves are quite robust even now, and the depletion in the reserve which has happened in the last few months, part of it, and a good part of it, is because of valuation losses. Still our reserves, the latest print, I think we gave out 656 or something like that. I don't remember the number exactly, but reserves are still, forex reserves are still quite adequate. We are confident of dealing with any spillovers. Now, you mentioned that is Reserve Bank concerned about outflows and all that. You see, somebody said that key inflows are expected. So how the forex market will behave going forward, we cannot really sort of, we cannot make a guess. We cannot really assess. We have to see there are so many uncertainties. New administration in the US that will take over, the response of other countries. So it's a very dynamically evolving situation. So as per requirement, we will take action. And so therefore, at the moment, we have no concern at all. It is a facilitation which we have provided to attract more, more inflows and an opportunity for NRIs to invest. And I actually lost a bit of, because your question, 2 questions so long. Is there anything else you asked in that FCNRB?
Will there be more measures?
No, about more measures you will have to wait. I can't spell out now. More measures as and when they are required, we will take. But on the FX front, let me say very clearly and emphatically that our forex reserves are strong. And I have, I think, devoted 2 paragraphs in my statement to explain the rationale for RBI's forex management. The focus is not just to deal with spillovers. It is an essential part of Reserve Bank's policy to build stability, of the macroeconomic stability and financial stability of the domestic system.
Thank you, sir. Sir, so this is the end of question. Would you?
Oh, sorry, there is a user.
Yeah, maybe. See, as you would recall, Reserve Bank, after extensive consultation, has deregulated the administered interest rates, and this freedom has been placed with the boards of the banks and NBFCs. And we have also said that the boards are expected to use this freedom placed in them in a prudent and sensible manner to ensure that their pricing practices are not considered usurious, whether it is pricing or fees. And we have also said in the same regulation that this will be subjected to supervisory assessment. So, basis such assessment over the last couple of years, wherever we have found such practices where we found that the customer interest was in danger, and the decisions were more driven by profit motives rather than securing customer interest. We have called out such entities. As Governor mentioned, we have had extensive discussion with multiple entities. Many entities have taken measures themselves to correct the situation, and a few entities which were considered outlier, we have singled them out for supervisory action, which we will anyway going forward review subject to they rectifying their position. And the third part of your question is in terms of are we having a rethink? I don't think at this point in time we still expect the industry to correct itself and use the freedom placed with them in a sensible manner so that their business grows in a responsible manner, ensuring fairness in their conduct and fairness to the customers. That is what we will continue to push at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, would you like to?
So, I mean, before we conclude, there was one announcement which I made about this mulehunter.ai. I thought there will be a question on that, but since it's not there, but just to disseminate the information to the wider audience, people who are viewing this broadcast, I would request Deputy Governor Ravi Shankar to very briefly explain that.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you also for intervening so that I got a direct question after a long time. No, the Mule Hunter is basically an infrastructure level setup we are creating, which will use the databases from all banks, all other payment system operators, and its AI engine will be trained based on this wide set of data to be able to identify frauds, etc., much more effectively in the financial system. If you look at frauds, the number of frauds are increasing, the amount involved in frauds are increasing, although number of frauds per transaction is coming down over the years. But the number is increasing fast enough for us to be concerned about it. I just wanted to clarify one point with respect to Mule Hunter, because there was some talk about it, that any entity, any payment system operator, any bank, any credit card network, every entity is free to use their own fraud detection systems. They will probably be used over and above this, and every individual is free to in fact innovate based on their own expertise, their own AI engines and so on. Reserve Bank's idea of introducing this Mule Hunter is to create an infrastructure level facility which others can use. With many participants, many small banks, etc., cannot devote enough resources to develop such systems, can actually use this. Even for the well-developed ones, this is a base which everyone can use. Thank you.
Thank you. I think before my colleague Puneet Pancholi concludes, there is just one information I want to provide. This is about the RBI. This is about the RBI 90 quiz, which we started in which we launched this year. So, as you would be aware, we had launched the RBI 90 quiz in August this year. This was a nationwide quiz for undergraduate students as part of the commemoration of the Reserve Bank's 90th year. I am happy to say that there was an overwhelming response to the quiz. We are holding the national finals today at 2:30 p.m. in Mumbai. It will be live streamed on Reserve Bank's YouTube channel. I encourage everyone, especially all the viewers, to join us and watch the exciting contest. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. With this, we'll conclude the press conference, and I'll thank the top management of Reserve Bank for answering all the questions. I'll request all the media friends to exit from the gate on my left, and I'll thank you once again and have a pleasant day.